Hello, my name is Tylluan. I'm a solitary pagan witch and the founder of the Wolf and Howl Press. This is another in a series of short videos which are designed to discuss certain aspects of magic and various spiritual and pagan beliefs in particular. Today's little talk is about simplicity in our magical and spiritual work. You may hear the odd strange noise. It's the dogs. They've been asleep for a while and they're snoring now very gently. But sometimes it gets so bad it shakes all the plates over on my dresser. So you've been warned. Keeping it simple. This was my response, if you like, to some questions I was asked this week, and I think they're very valid. I think, you see, part of the problem is that we begin with expectations of what we want. Everybody, whether they admit it or not, has expectations of what they want from their spiritual path. That's natural. I think the other thing is that we are beset by a lot of commercialism now. When I was young, I mean, you couldn't buy a magic wand for love nor money. I mean, there was just nowhere to go to buy things like that. You know, if you wanted a crystal or something, when you went to an old quarry or whatever it happened to be, the beach, and you hoped you'd find something interesting there. And you go to the woods for the wooden part, and you might pick up a few feathers, but that was it. It was very, very homemade. I mean, these gorgeous creations you see now, they're beautiful, but there is a tendency that we fall in love with them and we forget while we've got them. So the first thing is, I would say, whether you're starting off, whether you're much more experienced, have times when you aim to keep it very simple. I'm not saying get rid of your lovely wands and your bits and pieces, of course not. But I am saying there are times when you need to see that you can do without them. Very important, and your work, your spirituality, your magic will be all the better for it, because you are forcing yourself to fall back on your own inner resources. So that's one aspect of it. Another thing is that after a certain amount of time on a spiritual path, we often can end up wondering, especially when our path begins to get really magical, did I just see that? Did I just experience it? Am I fooling myself? I mean, this is a terrible thing, and a lot of people will not admit to it, but they are terrified, you know. Am I really seeing this, or is it, you know, is it something I've made up or imagined? Is it wishful thinking? Well, I think one of the things to remember is that if you believe there is magic out there, you are going to see and experience things that you cannot explain. I'm sure one day science will explain it all. And I'm sorry about this noise, it's the snoring. I'm sure one day science will explain it all, but for the time being, we are left on our own resources. But I think something we have to remember is no two people are likely to see everything the same. It does happen sometimes. I remember driving home on a very cold night years ago, and there was like a horse, a white horse in the middle of the road, but it was made of mist. We could see that. I braked, I slowed down, I didn't want to go through it. It was huge. But it was a huge white horse in the middle of the road. And I thought, oh, I'm seeing things, this isn't real. But in the end I had to drive through it, there was nowhere else I could go. And everybody sort of turned to each other as soon as we got through and said, did you see that? Because it was impossible to imagine that we'd all seen the same thing, but we had. Now, if I'd been in the car on my own, I would have doubted myself. And if I'd been someone who wasn't looking, who was fumbling in their pocket for a bag of sweets or something, well, they wouldn't have seen it. So that's one thing to remember. You've all got to be paying attention if you're going to see stuff. And another thing I think sometimes is that when we go looking for things, we somehow make those things more aware. I'm quite convinced of that. I mean, I never saw fairies till I was nearly 50. And once I started to see them, it was as though I'd woken something up And then I was seeing them quite often. I've even photographed some very strange things done in my garden, which may or may not be the gentle people, I don't know. But this is something else. How far does us looking, us seeking, actually awaken things? I think it's quite a long way, actually. I think it actually happens a lot. I think that as we start to look, these beings, entities, whatever you want to call them, I think they become much more aware that we are looking. And then, of course, they show themselves to us. And this is why I think people who, I think it was a Greek philosopher, Anaxagoras, who said, if we don't look, we shall be sure not to find it. It's very true. You know, if you're not looking, you won't find it. It's highly unlikely. It's the same with magic. So don't be put off. Don't be frightened. It's just that you've reached a stage where you are starting to see things. You are starting to experience things. And it's natural, we get a bit frightened and it's like, oh, whoa, hang on a minute. And it's easier to go back to what we've had before because we're comfortable with that. We know that. We know what to expect. Nothing's going to happen. That's fine. But if you continue, then all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff may and probably will happen to you. So please, don't lose heart. Keep going. It's all you need on a spiritual path. An inquiring mind and a good heart. And you'll get there. And good luck with it. I hope you've enjoyed that. I enjoyed talking about it. And thank you for listening. Goodbye.